right, today is Monday, October 24th. Let's call this regular Oscoda Township Board meeting to order at 7:02. If we could please stand for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll start with roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings, absent. Ms. McGuire, absent. Mr. Spencer?
Present.
Mr. Palmer?
Here.
Mr. Sutton here. Mr. Wushtabarth, absent. Ms. Richards?
Here. All right, we do have a quorum. I'll bet a little bit light. All right, do we have any agenda additions this evening?
No.
Okay, hearing none. I'm assuming we don't have any public presentations? No. Okay. We have two public comment line items, sorry, not thinking. My brain and my mouth are not working together right now, sorry about that. But we have two public comment parts on the agenda. The first is reserved for an item that's on the agenda. So again, it has to be on the agenda to make a comment during this, and you do need to fill out a comment card. Do we have any comment cards?
No.
Okay, we do have another second public comment section that's at the end of the meeting, and you can speak on any topic at that time. You are limited to the same amount of time, 4 minutes, and then you'd have to come to the podium, okay? There's a couple new people in the audience I was just explaining. All right, moving on then to the consent agenda. First on the consent agenda, we have special meeting minutes from October 10th. Were there any questions or comments on those? Okay, hearing none, we have regular meeting minutes from October 10th. I know there was I gave a couple corrections. Anybody else have any? After Josh emailed them out today, any other comments? Anything good there? All right. We have a few different payment of bills. The first is the prepaid check run from October 18th in the amount of $92,004.72. Any comments or questions on those?
I see bills for the CPA. That's divided between the clerk and the treasurer. Is that working out to help?
Yeah. Yeah, we had those in there were two you're gonna see back to back because we had to work out, I had to know exactly what GL number those were paid from. And the first one, we had some for the audit presentation. There was a charge, and then the rest was for treasurer and clerk. But yeah, we've been working with the CPA, I know especially on straightening out the bank reconciliations, which that's something that we're trying to straighten out with the cash that's coming in, that's creating that issue. So I know that's been a great help for Jamie and myself. Whenever we have to do a money move, you're supposed to have a third party. And in the past, we used to try to do that through the auditor, which is what Stevenson kept telling us that was kind of their limit, which is why we need to have a CPA that we reach out to for that.
Okay. My understanding was that was just going to be a short-term thing to help the treasurer and the clerk. But if it's helping to get things straightened out, then, that's fine.
Yeah, we're hoping there's just a few more things, like I said, that we're working on with the cash that should be able to get straightened out, and then that should be reduced.
There was one other comment, not really a question on here. It's unallocated on page 11 of the packet for building operations assessment, WT Architects, $1,200. And I was talking to Mr. Freeman before the meeting. I think he's going to touch on this in his report. The Planning Commission's been waiting for months and months for this assessment to evaluate the existing building and what our potential needs are. And my understanding is they're working on calculating what our cost of operating the existing building is to compare with what the cost over time would be for a new building. So and I guess, Josh, you're helping them get those bills together.
Yeah, I've got to get all the utility bills, so
So,
I was just trying to get to the end of the election so I can collect those. They need at least a year's
oh,
worth.
there's an election coming up?
Yeah.
Okay. So I see that bill in there, and so hopefully we'll be getting information from them on an assessment of our, not only our needs, but for the existing building and what could be done with that. The other question I had is on page 15. I can't find it here. Under the visa bills, under the superintendent, there's a charge for the treasurer, and under the clerk, there's 2 charges for the superintendent. And then under the assessor, there's a charge for the superintendent's visas. I'm not clear, because I know the treasurer and the clerk both have their own Visa card. I was just wondering why it's listed like that.
We have that. The one that's charged on there for treasurer was when Ms. Klein first came in, and we were still using Zoom during the pandemic. So that ended up getting charged to Ms. McGuire's credit card, and that's a reoccurring monthly charge for the Zoom. So there's a couple of those that are on
Well,
different cards.
normally that's under the treasurer's line then, instead of the superintendent. That's what I was getting at.
Oh, the Zoom charge, I believe we normally paid that out of one of the board lines. And
The Zoom charges should have been taken out of unallocated.
Okay.
That's where they should be taken out of. I didn't code that one, obviously.
And then the 2 that are visa superintendent under the clerk's line?
Those your election laptops?
He had to use my card
to order.
to order his laptops.
Instead of your
Yeah,
own?
her limit's higher.
Oh,
I couldn't
okay.
order them on mine.
Okay, all right, okay. And the charge for the assessor laptops, I wasn't clear what, since we're not going to have an in-house assessor, what that is for.
What page is that on?
15.
I can see it, but I have no idea. That is one of Josh's laptops, I think, again.
How many did you get?
4,
You got four
got
laptops
4.
for the election?
yes.
And I see 3 of them listed here.
Well, should this be under elections instead of the assessor?
I would imagine so,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, because I wasn't sure why we'd be buying a laptop for the assessor if we're not going to have an assessor.
No, which I can fix that.
Okay, all right.
This is,
Well, in theory, we are having an
Well, we have an
just
assessor,
don't
just
have.
not,
Right,
not
exactly.
in-house, and he has his own computers.
Correct.
That was all.
All right. Then we also have a check run from October 25th, or for October 25th, I should say, $53,743.51. Any questions on that? Okay, hearing none. Then we have a bond payment checking report. Any comments or questions on that? And then there's 3 CW SRF checking reports listed. And then we have the financial report for quarter three, sorry. Any comments there? All right. So there was a few questions for the October 18th run that sounds like Josh is going to take care of. With that in mind, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented with corrections.
Okay, is there support?
Support, Spencer.
All right, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Spencer to approve the consent agenda with those couple corrections as noted in the prepaids for October 18th. Roll call, please.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes. All right, motion carried. Moving on to the subcommittee reports and project updates. Tonight we have Rick Freeman that is going to be giving us an update on some of the township projects.
Good evening, everyone. you have my report in front of you. I will kind of just hit some highlights for each of the various projects that we're working on at the township level. Water main projects, probably the biggest news there is today we did receive from Eagle the guidelines for working through the reimbursement process. I have not had a chance to go through the detail of it, but we will be getting that taken care of and then working with Tammy and to get that first round of reimbursements put together, submitted to start the cash flow process. Going back to 3/3 of '21 for design services on Phase 3 and Phase 5 that have taken place since then, and then also Phase 6. And then also, it'll be the first 2 pay requests for each of those projects. Tonight's is board approval of the second one, so, and then any other miscellaneous accounting or legal fees that were tied to getting through that process. The permits, the easement permit, or the easement fees that were approved at the last board meeting and all of that, we'll be putting that together and getting that request in as soon as we work through the details, and hopefully it goes through without any major issues, but it is a little different process than what the DWRF and the SRF appears to be. So I'm sure there'll be a few bugs that we'll have to work through this first go-around, so. Second thing on the water main projects, we had a progress meeting both with Elmer's on Phase 5 and Caterman on Phase 3 last Friday. Primary reason for that is the supply chain is starting to hit us. Both contractors have a majority of the main line in the ground. They're working with their boring contractors for the railroad crossings, and then the services, they've pretty much tapped out on the available meter pits, meters, and other fittings and such for those services. I think we will get approximately 15 to 18 services actually installed this fall, with the rest of them coming in the spring. And then we're working with both of them to properly shut down the projects for the winter. We gotta make sure that we don't cause any issues with dead-end mains and such, and obviously making sure that the roadways that have been disturbed are put back to functional capacity through the winter, and then also a maintenance plan, if any of them are gonna be temporary fixes, a maintenance plan to make sure they're coming back in at a regular basis to make sure that the traveling public doesn't have any issues with that. So anticipating getting that winter shutdown report or work plan from them this week, and then obviously working with Tammy and F&V operations to make sure they're aware of what that plan is.
Before we go on to another, is it gonna all go on one street then? You're talking service lines, are you gonna focus in one area?
No,
Or
they've,
are they jumping
I'm not
around?
gonna, they've got, like, right now, they've completed the services, small area, Washington and Fullerton. That area was completed. The other area that'll have a fair amount of services installed, the majority of the remaining ones will be on Woodland. Ridge might have a few, and also Oak, up near Van Etten and Oscoda, up in I'll say the northern stretch of Oak, up in that area, but that's gonna be about it. And the biggest thing is again, just like I said, lack of meter pits, meters, and other material, which we're hearing, we're not going to start seeing that material start coming in until February and March. We'll determine at that time when it actually starts coming in, based on the weather, if it's feasible to go out and get started then, or waiting until, April or May. We do have a very good response this time around. Verbally, I've only heard that we've only got 3 or 4 that have decided not to hook up. So, it's gonna be a busy spring, putting all those services in. A lot of them are seasonal anyway. But again, we're coordinating with that. We're fielding the authorization forms, both at Josh's office, the water department, and then our inspector, or Rose inspectors are picking them up in the field and moving forward. So, unfortunately, like I said, we're caught with the supply chain problems, and we will, work the best we can with that, and then I will, hopefully at next month's meeting, have a revised schedule on when things will pick back up. So. The sanitary sewer system, the CWSRF,
Rick, excuse me, just a couple more questions on the water mains. On the Phase 6,
yes.
we're going to have bids, openings. Has that gone out for bids already?
No, the design for Phase 6 out the Colbath area
Yeah.
is, the final design is underway right now. Talking with Roe, the plan is to get that out for bid, hopefully yet this calendar year. Obviously, we gotta go through the Eagle review process and that, so it'll depend on that, but, worst case scenario, January. But we wanna have that one basically ready to go, as soon as the weather breaks in the spring. With that, all of the materials, the meter pits, the meters that the township orders, we've got the number put together, and we will have that one in so we can get those ordered this winter, so that we won't have a supply chain issue in the spring with those, so.
Hopefully.
Yep.
And then the last one is the township-wide service line project.
Yes.
What exactly is that?
So when we're all said and done, so we also were able to include in the C2, R2 grant application was to pick up any other area within the area of contamination of groundwater, any other existing mains that have been out there for the last few years, so that would be Loud, even phase 1 and 2, Loud and Forest and Van Etten, even though we pretty much got those taken care of. Loud has a few residents on it that didn't hook up, and then there's other areas within that plume area that we're going to reach out and get them connected if they so choose, and again, no cost to them. We have a rough number of about 140 residents or properties that have a water main in front of them but never connected to it. So we'll be finalizing that list and getting that bid also out this winter for that to take place in the spring. And again, same thing there, that if they need meter pits, we're gonna have that order in well in advance, so that hopefully by the end of 2023, we will have most of this water main work completed.
So you're saying that the C2R2 will cover the Phase 2 water main that went down Loud Drive to
Only the ones that didn't hook up. We can't go back and get reimbursement for the ones that did hook up on their own dime. That's not allowed. But anybody that didn't choose to hook up from Cedar Lake up to Thalen Creek, and I think there was probably about 15 or 20, somewhere in there, that just opted not to pay it out of their own pocket, we will be able to go back, if they're interested, we will be able to go back and capture those. But there's no reimbursement. We tried that with the Eagle, and they wouldn't allow that process to be part of this grant. We are still looking at other funding sources that possibly will be able to get reimbursement for those residents, but we've not been successful yet as far as finding one, so.
Because I would like to find some way that the township can reimburse the people that did, because they're in an area of concern.
Yep.
And they had contaminated wells, and they were anxious to get on the municipal water. And so they went ahead and anteed up the money, even though it was, we didn't have the funding in place to pay for those hookups. It's just not fair. It's not right for those people to have to pay that. Now, the people that, maybe they didn't have the money, so they didn't hook up to it, we can cover them now. I guess that's that's on the plus side. But the people that went ahead and funded the money, we need to find some way to reimburse them for that, because it's just not right that you know, they were concerned because they have contaminated wells and wanted to make sure they were on clean water, so, okay.
And we have the list of those residents, so we've got the list, so like I said, we're looking for opportunities to capture that. And just a reminder, the reason they were not able to get their services paid for is because that funding was under USDARD, which didn't allow any of that grant to be constructed on private property. The DWRF, the S2 or C2R2 grant did allow that. That's why this round of water main work, we're able to get the services included, so.
Okay, thank you.
How many are on that list, just out of curiosity?
The ones that actually
The
installed.
ones that installed early that aren't going to get reimbursed, ballpark.
And I think it's somewhere around 35.
I thought it was like 35 or.
Because we had from a total number from Cedar Lake up to Thalen Creek, I want to say was just around 60, 55 to 60. And like I said, 35-ish, I think, were hooked up themselves, and then the remainder either weren't interested, or there were a few vacant properties also there. So we'll sort through that as far as for the future. Now, the vacant properties do have the curb stop and the meter pit sitting there, but obviously there's no service to run to, no building, no buildings or residents. So we'll be sorting all of that out. That'll also, like I said, we'll be including that with the other areas of that area of the township that is eligible for this. And like I said, the first couple of pass-throughs, like I said, we're right around 140 that might be eligible for it, so.
And how much did that meter pit cost? Was it like 2,500, something like that?
Each meter pit, I believe, yes, was 2,500, and the meter's 15? Well, the whole,
100 for
yeah, the whole service was about 7,500, but
So those residents out of pocket wrote us a check for $7,500 to
yeah, they were actually, quite a few of them were able to, because it was the economy of scale, and I think it was Goyette that came in there and did most of them. Some of them got they still had to pay for it entirely out of their pocket, but I think some of the costs were like around $3,500, because Goyette was in there doing so many of them. They were able to mobilize and take care of it, and that was 2020 when they didn't have a lot of other work, so they were able to cut them some decent prices. The few residents that have reached out to me about that have paid, I've asked to make sure that they have all of their bills and their invoices, so that whatever program we come up with, hopefully, we'll have documentation as far as what they expended for that service to be done, so.
And is the C2R2 covering the tap-in fee as well as the connection?
Yeah, the C2R2 well, they'll still have to pay, starting with the ready to serve, but all the connection to the existing main up to separating their house from their well to the new server, that is covered 100%, including the well abandonment and capping.
Because at an Eagle meeting I attended quite some time ago, they said that everything was included except the tap-in fee. But then someone else from Eagle said, well, that can be waived under the C2R2. So apparently they're waiving that.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
and again, part of this whole thing is that is all part of the project costs, so yes, they're waiving
Yeah.
it through, by the fact that they're rolling it into that work.
Okay.
Or Roe will be rolling that into the work that's put out for bid.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on water?
Yeah.
Well, I guess, I hate to keep kicking
No,
the
that's fine.
question, but what is the rationale for not going back and reimbursing those? I mean, why? I mean, I know it's not our call, it's theirs.
What Eagle
When
had?
Yeah, what is their rationale for that?
That looked like a roll of the eyes.
They didn't really, it was the same thing, because we had also, in that same question, we had asked to see if they would go back and reimburse the township for the DWRF loan that we took out for 2021. And they ran it up the administration and that, and whoever made the determination is that that was not an eligible cost for the C2, R2 grant language. And see, it was a mix. It was between what was originally put together for the C2R grant process, along with Representative Aller's funding, for it. So we didn't really get a definite good answer of why, other than it was administratively reviewed and decided that reimbursement was not going to be part of this, so.
One of those because I said so.
Yeah, well, there could have been that, most of those people that had them installed, it sounds like there was wildly varying costs too, and trying to go back and see all that, maybe they just thought it just wasn't worth it.
Well, that depends on how many feet back your house is.
Right.
And that's,
Yeah, some
Yeah.
services might have been 50-foot long, others might have been 200 in that
right,
area.
there's varying distances from the road to the. where
But
the
we
houses
haven't
are.
given up on it, like I
All right.
said, and as we continue to go through this process, we will keep revisiting that, as we gather more data and such, and like I said, maybe something will come up as far as a game plan for reimbursing them, so that everybody within the contaminated groundwater area is covered, so.
Thank you.
Sanitary sewer system, the CWSRF, the pump station, lagoon screening project and such is nearing the end. We're to the point where there's a couple of portions of the project that they're still working on. A couple of the list of pump stations, they still have to go through the controls and all of that. Got a revised schedule emailed to me earlier today. And they were thinking that they were back on schedule to wrap up in November. But with all of the coordination with the controls and making sure everything is working properly before they leave the area, they have now extended that out to first part of December. But again, we're gonna make sure that between RCL, F&V, any other township personnel that will be involved in it, that all of those bugs are worked out of the system. They make sure that they know how the new controls will work, how they should work, what to expect from the new controls and the new pump stations and the pumps going in, because we don't want, again, the contractor to leave the area. I mean, they're from the Freeland area, so it's not like they're leaving the state. But we want to make sure all of that stuff is taken care of so that we have a smooth running system once we cross the Ts and dot the Is and that. So there'll be a lot of coordination with everybody at that time. And there's a lot of coordination going on right now too, so.
Rick, how far down the road are we from having another project to do the rest of the pump stations? Because during this, we had to, pump station 8, we had to put a Band-Aid on that to get it working. And for some reason, a lot of the other pump stations weren't included. We did 19, I believe, in this project. We still have a number of others that need work. And I was reading something the other day from Eagle that for the CWSRF coming up, you have to have a letter of intent in by November 1st.
Actually, I'll, if you don't mind, I'll move, I was gonna bring that up later,
Okay,
but
all
no, but we're talking about it now, so yes, is that we are working on a letter of intent. It's a 2-page form that needs to be filled out. We need to give them some budget information of what the next project could look like as far as that goes. We are going back to the SAW report that Spicer did back in 2016, 2017, looking at the next round of priorities that were identified in that report, along with F&Vs. They continually, I think every year, submit a updated CIP plan for both water and sewer, so we're kind of cross-matching those. And then also, because of what we encountered with Pump Station 8, as far as the deterioration that took place from the SAW report till now, I'll be recommending that we go out, if we go down this road, we will go out and do a follow-up investigation on the remaining components to see if any of them have deteriorated beyond, or deteriorated to a point where we need them, move them up in the priority list. So, back to the letter of intent. It's a 2-page form. All it does is it gets the townships, gets you a bookmark in the process that you are considering another project plan and CWSRF application next spring. So if we submit this, gives you the place mark in there, and then as we go through some of this, we will be coming back through Tammy and making a recommendation on whether or not the township should go for the next round. We have talked to Baker Tilly as far as the rate study that they had previously done and what is coming off from the township books. Your 2000, and I might have the years wrong, your 2011 and 2014 sewer projects are coming off the expenditures here in the next couple of years. If we go this route and put in another CWSRF application, the payment of that wouldn't start because of the timing. It starts 12 months after the project goes online. Is probably 25 or 2025 or 2026. So those two projects from 2011 and 14 will actually come off. And there is, based on the rate study and what they factored into it, there is the potential for another $4 to $6 million project that could be absorbed by the sewer fund. But again, we will work through all of that, make a recommendation prior to a full-blown work plan and application that would be needed to be submitted in, I think it's by the end of March. The other main component that they are really stressing this time is you are receiving principal forgiveness on the current one based on your disadvantaged community status. They've re-termed it as calling overburden as far as costs to the infrastructure and the utility system. But that's the same thing. They're gonna really look hard at the townships and the municipalities that have a deteriorating system and a depressed economy, and which we're all kind of in a depressed economy right now, and seeing how that factors in that another round of principal forgiveness could come out of this process again, so.
That was gonna be my next question, if they're gonna
Yes.
continue with the principal forgiveness, because I
Yeah.
think we were forgiven something like $2
1
million or something.
1.6 million on
1.6.
the current project.
Right.
It's actually based on a percentage of what the
Right.
final project cost will be, but based on the initial bids and stuff, it was 1.6 that you'll be receiving on this one. So, yes, we are looking into that. We've talked to USDA-RD on sewer funding, and they said right now, based on their system and that they would really strongly, they're strongly recommending communities to go the SRF process, just because their funding pool has significantly been reduced. So we'll be looking at that and prioritizing, and like I said, making recommendations over the next couple of months on how to proceed with that, so.
I can understand taking out the low interest loans for the sewer projects that we're doing. We shouldn't have had to take out loans to pay for our drinking water main extension. So when this is all said and done, that would probably be part of our lawsuit against the Air Force.
Any other questions on the sewer project?
I did, just on the lift station, basically, I don't remember the number, sorry, but the corner of Georgia and Perimeter there, the stinky.
25?
Yeah, the stinky one.
Yes.
Any, is there gonna be any improvement?
Well, like I said, we're going to, if you remember the conversation, the controls very well could take care of the problem. Once we get everything set and such, we will look at the ability, the fact that we're gonna be moving the sewage, the sewage more frequently, and hopefully minimizing it getting to septic conditions, because that's what happens, it goes septic, and that's what the odor is. So that's the first thing, we're gonna see if the controls will take care of it. If not, we do have money available to look at other means and methods as far as taking care of it. The other means and methods aren't all that reliable. They're maintenance intensive as far as making sure that the chemicals are getting added at the right rate and all that stuff, but we are gonna look at that. There is gonna be funds available in this one. The other option would be a future project that we would line that force main, because it's oversized and plenty of capacity in it, we would line it and reduce the capacity in the force main, which would move that sewage more frequently. I mean, it's just the way to do it. So we haven't forgot about it. It's still on a priority list and coming up with a solution for it, so.
Okay, so like how quickly will we know if the controls had any
I would
success?
say probably in that getting everything up and running. Unfortunately, January is probably not the best time because it's the middle of winter. So we will know how frequently it's getting moved, and I'll say the science as far as it should be moving quick enough prior to becoming septic. We might not know the true success of it until the weather starts warming up in the spring. But we won't be closing out this project until spring, when the restoration, grass is growing and all that stuff anyway. So maybe January, we'll get some idea, but a definite answer probably in the April, May timeframe.
Okay, well, with the obvious detour route that we had to take for a little bit, I
Yes.
noticed it several times.
Yes.
So, okay,
Right.
all right.
Yep. Any other questions on the sewer? Okay. Moving on to the trail project, today we conducted the pre-construction meeting. Contract is in place with MDOT and the Road Commission. Tammy and I met with Bruce Boland at the Road Commission on how the payment of bills will go with the contractor. This will all be paid by MDOT and trickle down through. Based on the way the bids came in and the budget and the grant funding that we have chased after the last couple of years, we do have, at this time, we do have a fairly decent surplus in the accounts, or as far as the reimbursement accounts coming through. With the option of that, if there are any extras and stuff, that we should be able to absorb some of those, but I set up a budget and we'll be tracking that. I'll be tracking that very closely with Tammy. And then, like I said, we went down the process with the Road Commission on how, MDOT will pay the contractor, then the grants, the TAP grant will be pulled money out of that by MDOT to fund the contractor until such point where there has to be a local match. That'll trickle down to the Road Commission. The Road Commission will send the township an invoice. And at that time, we will then start the process of asking for reimbursement from the trust fund, the foundation and challenge grants from the IET group, Oscoda County, USDA, all the different sources, as far as I'm working through exactly the process to request reimbursement through there. So we've got that all worked up, and so that the cash flow is going smoothly. But we had our presentation on the EMR today. We all know what to look for, what not to look for, how to report if we see a rattlesnake throughout the process, and so we're good to go. So we're just waiting on Caterman's schedule. He'll be doing his clearing from roughly the 1st of November till the end of April. And hopefully by this time next year, the trail will be nearing completion. Anything on the trail?
Says it's $700,000 under the low bid was $700,000 under the engineer's estimate.
Yes.
How do you account for a $700,000 difference? If the engineers say it's gonna cost this much, and they came in and said, oh,
If you're gonna recall, we should have been out for bid 2 years ago. And the delays, construction costs, and all of that, we wanted to make sure we were, I'll say, conservative on the engineer's estimate, so that we chased after enough funding to make it whole. So there was a concentrated effort on making sure that that estimate was conservative. And then recently, though, we've seen the bids from contractors coming in significantly lower than they were in 2020 during the pandemic and 2021. So Caterman Trucking is very aggressive in the area. They completed the trail over by Hale, so they're familiar with the process and such. So they came in very, very well. The second lowest bid was just $200,000 under the engineer's estimate. So so it was, Caterman was significantly lower, and so.
Cool, thank you.
Other miscellaneous things, obviously working with F&V operations, getting myself familiar with everything that's going on with their operations with the township. As Mr. Palmer said, with WTA and the facilities update, they came out here, they did their interview, re-interviewed all of the different individuals from the different departments. Looked, went back to the work that they'd done in 2019 and updated that. Now they're in the process of looking at what a combined facility would be, how economical that will be on the utilities and operations side. As Josh said, he's pulling together what information we can get out of the existing facilities to do that evaluation. And then the next step, kind of in sync with that, would be then revisiting the site evaluation, because I know there's a couple of additional sites, a little bit maybe focus on the existing Township Hall site and such, so they'll be getting that. I'll work with them to, if we can get that information, maybe have a draft report for review, maybe in the January timeframe at the latest. Might be able to pull it off before the holidays, but I'm not gonna, definitely guarantee that, so. The couple of other things for informational purposes, on funding, we are looking into the Sparks grant that the DNR has put out there. They had a first round that was, that they're going through right now. They strongly suggested holding off on submitting on that first one. We have a deadline of December 19th for the next round. We'll be submitting, making a recommendation to submit on that, and prioritizing the projects for that. That'll be for the first quarter of 2023 award. Roughly $65 million for recreation, quality of life. There is a component of identifying how hard the community was hit with COVID. So we'll be working through all those details and hopefully coming up with a good application for Sparks and see how we come out of that process. Another one that we're looking at is the scrap tire grant that the DNR puts out, where they're recycling scrap tires statewide. They have worked over the last several years with the asphalt manufacturers to incorporate the rubber into the asphalt mix. They've perfected that to a point where it doesn't gum up the equipment and all of that stuff. For a while there, they were focusing on parking lots because of heavy traffic areas, or staying away from heavy traffic areas, keeping it away from roads. Actually, this round of grants, they don't want to see any parking lots. They want to just look at local access roads and that. So we'll be looking at that opportunity and again, working with Tammy and stuff and identifying some local roads that we might try to apply for the scrap tire grant. As far as that goes, they are due first part of within a couple of weeks, and then they announce shortly after the first of the year, so that would be for construction next summer, and possibly on some of the roads if we're successful. One thing, working with F&V and sitting at a meeting with Tammy and the Eagle, Another recommendation coming from me to Tammy and then to the board, we're working with Catherine. We all know that we are in need of a water supply down in the Oscoda Beach Park area, the downtown area. You know, that's what we put in for the Senator Peters, special appropriations. That's what we had submitted the MEDC RAP application on, or a portion of it. The public gathering for Oscoda Beach Park was kind of part of it. Well, through discussions with Catherine, Hersra has a main that is starting at about Lake and US 23, runs down Lake to Michigan, and then up Michigan back to 23. That's identified as a primary transmission main under Hersra. There is a process that has previously been done by the township, and she's looking into the details and sharing that with Tammy and myself as far as getting that section of Maine converted from primary to secondary. If that is successful, then that gives us a water source down in that area instead of trying to bring in an 8-inch main or a distribution main from a fair distance away. So we'll have a source right there that we can feed off from. So over the next month or so, I'm guessing that we will bring that to you. Starts with the township board, goes to Hersra's board, and there'll be some back and forth to get that worked out. But that'll be more likely than not a recommendation to move forward on something like that. That'll help out the township with a significant water source down in that area for future projects, so. And I think that's my report.
Quick question on the feasibility study for the Lakewood Shores area. That's been brought up to me a couple of times since I was elected here. And when is that gonna be completed? Because I now have an interest in it.
I've actually got it drafted out because we were chasing after C2R2 funding for that. So I've got the numbers all put together. I just got to put it in a draft report format and get that submitted. As far as the cost, you know, where we would be connecting to the water system to get water in there, and then also the sewer system. So it's just me crossing the Ts and dotting the Is, now that we found out that C2R2 wouldn't fund the water side of it, so.
Is there a time frame on that?
I was talking to Nicole about it. I'm gonna try to get that for the December meeting, as far as getting that done, so.
Okay, cool.
It'll depend on kind of how, I think the focus that Tammy's gonna want me is on this C2R2 grant reimbursement. So for the next week or two, I'll be probably focusing on that and some other applications, so,
Fair enough.
yeah, so.
All right, thank you.
I just had a question on the Holiday Inn Express. I mean, it looks like they've done a lot of parking lot work and everything. Do we have an idea when they're gonna start actual construction on the hotel part?
I just received this past week the fire suppression system to review.
Yeah, I see that.
So I think they were kind of waiting on that and verifying where they were gonna be able to connect to the township system. So with the fire suppression system in, I'm gonna finish my review on that, make any comments or recommendations on that. I think that will then allow them to start planning for coming up out of the ground with the structure itself. We are looking at connecting, we did find at least a 6-inch, maybe an 8-inch. They're gonna do an exploratory dig, I think later this week, at the corner of Lake and Michigan to tie into the system, which will give us enough pressure to accommodate the fire suppression system. So I have not asked for a revised schedule on it unless somebody else at the township has received it, because I kind of put I need to see the fire suppression system before we go too much further. And I've been asking for that since June, so.
So you just got it?
Just got it.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Rick before we move on to Tammy's report?
No.
All right, thank you very much, as always.
For the rest of it. Okay.
All right, so,
My turn?
yep, moving on to the superintendent's report. First on, we have quite a few row engineering invoices. So, did you want to give any, I mean, you want me to just hit each one,
If you
or?
want to hit each one
Okay.
individually, that would be great.
Okay, so the first one we have is invoice number 105460 for the Iosco Exploration Trail. The amount on that is $930. Do we have any questions, or do we have a motion to approve that?
I would make a motion to approve paying invoice 105460 for the Iosco Exploration Trail in the amount of $930 from Fund 101-751-880-572.
Support, Spencer?
All right, so there's a motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Mr. Spencer for invoice 105460. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to invoice number 105587. This is for the Water System Improvement Project 2023, Phase 6. The amount on that is $6,736.25. Do we have any discussion or a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the payment of invoice 105,587 for the Water System Improvement Project 2023 Phase 6 in the amount of $6,736.25 from the C2R2 funding after final directions from Eagle on the C2R2 funding reimbursement process, and the Township receives the funds from Eagle.
All right, I'll support that. There's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Ms. Richards to approve invoice 105587. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to invoice 105590. This is for as-needed services. The amount is $310.
I'll make a motion to approve invoice number 105,590 as needed services in the amount of $310 from account 101-299-801.000.
I'll support that, Palmer.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Spencer and support by Mr. Palmer to approve invoice 105590. Roll call, please. Whoopsie.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to invoice 105613. This is for the wastewater pump station improvements. The amount on that is $37,581.75.
I'll make a motion to approve paying row invoice 105631 in the amount of $37,581.75 for the wastewater pump station improvements to be paid from the CW SRF checking once funds are available.
I'll support that if you change the invoice number to 105,613.
What'd they say?
631.
A little dyslexic, I guess.
That's okay, I just,
Six
since
one
it's on the
three.
record.
There's a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Spencer for invoice 105613. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Next is invoice 105621 for the water systems improvements. That amount is $38,433.75.
I would make a motion to approve paying invoice 105,621 in the amount of $38,433.75 from C2R2 after final directions from Eagle on the C2R2 reimbursement process and the Township receiving the funds from Eagle.
Support, Spencer.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Mr. Spencer to approve invoice 105621. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Last invoice from Row is invoice 105625. Again, for water systems improvements, this is Phase 3. The amount is $30,712.50. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move to pay.
Oh.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I move to approve invoice number 105,625 for the Water System Improvement Phase 3 in the amount of $30,712.50 from the C2R2 after the funds become available from Eagle.
Is there support?
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Palmer for invoice 105625. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. All right, moving on to the second item on the, under the superintendent's report, which is the Oscoda Phase 3 water main pay request number 2.
All right, your packet contains the second pay request in the Phase 3 water main project in the amount of $630,153, leaving a total of $1,017,748 remaining on this project. I would ask that the board consider approving the second pay request from Caterman Trucking in the amount of $630, or $630,153 to be paid from the C2R2 funds after reimbursement is requested and deposited into the township's account.
Great, do we have any discussion or questions, or do I have a motion to approve request number 2?
I have one question. Normally in these pay requests, the contractor provides certain documentation. One of those documents is the release of claim on the township, because the contractor has a lien on the property until it's paid. And as we pay on that, they normally provide us with a letter releasing that part of, for which we're paying. I didn't see that in any of these other than one for RCL. They've been doing that regularly. Are we getting those?
What we're waiting on is, again, we were waiting on what C2R2 was specifically going to request for reimbursement. So I said to hold off on, other than getting the pay requests in,
Okay,
I told him to hold off on exactly what other backup documentation we were gonna need until such time. So if we need some of that documentation, we'll be requesting it, and that'll come back through the system once we sort out, you know,
well,
'cause we're-
I would think that release of lien is for the benefit of the township. I think we would need that regardless of,
but I don't know what format it needs to be in. So, and again, you're right, and before they get paid, we will make sure that, you know, we have that release in
Okay.
front of us.
all right.
But, like I said, until I had some type of direction from C2R2, and I wish I could answer tonight what they're exactly gonna ask, but just haven't had a chance to get through the documentation they sent today.
Okay, as long as the township has
Yes.
provided that
Yes.
at some point.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that, I'd make a motion to approve pay request number 2 from Caterman Trucking in the amount of $630,153 for the Phase 3 water main project to be paid from C2R2 funding once funds are received in our account.
Support, Spencer.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer and support by Mr. Spencer to approve pay request number 1. I'm sorry, number 2. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes,
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to the Oscoda Phase 4 water main pay request number 7.
Right, your packet contains the seventh pay request in the Phase 4 water main project in the amount of $84,517.20. This will be the final installment on the Phase 4 project. I would ask that the board consider approving the final pay request from Caterman Construction in the amount of $84,517.20 to be paid from the DWRF checking.
Is there any discussion, or is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the pay request number 7 from Caterman Trucking in the amount of $84,517.20 for Phase 4 water main project to be paid from DWRF checking once funds are available, and this to be the final payment.
Support, Spencer.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Spencer for pay request number 7. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes,
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to Oscoda Phase 5 water main pay request number 2.
Your packet contains the second pay request in the Phase 5 water main project in the amount of $380,637, leaving a total of $1,413,675.80 remaining on this project. I would ask that the board consider approving the second pay request from Elmer's Crane and Dozer in the amount of $380,637 to be paid from the C2R2 funds after reimbursement is requested and deposited into the township's account.
Do we have any questions here or a motion to approve?
I'd move to approve the Phase 4 water main request, or pay request number 2, in the amount of $380,637 to be paid from the C2R2 funds after the funds have been deposited into the township's account.
Okay, I'll support that. There's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Ms. Richards to approve pay request number 2. Roll call, please.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to the pump station replacement project pay request number 11.
Your packet contains the 11th pay request in the pump station replacement project in the amount of $630,185.92, leaving a total of $290,782.80 remaining for this project. I would ask that the board consider approving the 11th pay request from RCL Construction in the amount of $630,185.92 to be paid from the CWSRF checking after reimbursement is requested and deposited into the township's account.
All right, any further discussion or questions, or do we have a motion?
I'd make a motion to approve the second pay request from Elmer's Crane and Dozer in the amount of $380,637 to be paid from the C2R2 funds after reimbursement is requested and deposited in the township's account.
That's from the CWSRF.
Do you have in my
And
head?
you're on the wrong total, too.
Yeah, you're on the wrong one.
That was the one below, or one above it.
Phase 5?
No, we're on
We're on number 5,
pay
yeah.
request number 11, and
So pay request number 11.
oh, you're looking at the old one. This is the new one right here. That's the new total right there. Page 71 of the,
You can make the motion, because I don't have that in there.
All right, so I'll make a motion that we approve the 11th pay request from RCL Construction in the amount of $630,185.92 to be paid from the CWSRF checking after reimbursement is requested and deposited in the township account.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Richards and support by Mr. Palmer to approve request number 11. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to the Administrative Services Specialist position hire request, I make a motion that we postpone discussion until the November 7th meeting.
Support, Spencer?
Okay, there's a motion by Ms. Richards, support by Mr. Spencer to postpone discussion until the November 7th meeting. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to the mediation results and decision.
I'll make a motion that we approve the mediation results as they determined at the mediation.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Palmer to approve the mediation agreement as presented.
Very good.
Roll call.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes. Motion passed, sorry. Resolution number, moving on to the resolution section on the agenda. Resolution number 2022-29 is the resolution to appoint the OWA LFDA trustee.
Yes.
Any further comments?
This was given to me by Ms. McGuire, as she is I believe she's the chair for the LDFA, so just asking for approval.
Okay, is there any questions or comments on that? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve Resolution 2022-29 as presented.
Support?
Okay, there's a motion by Richards, support by Sutton to approve Resolution 2022-29. Roll call.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. At our last meeting, we had a draft proclamation for the state representative Sue Eller, and this evening we have one on our agenda to approve. Everybody had a chance to review it? Everybody good with it?
I would just like to say, the audience, you've heard us approve tonight, I think, somewhere over $1 million in payments for water mains and that sort of extensions. We're paying that with the C2R2 grant funding, which Sue Aller was able to put through the legislature to get that sent here to Oscoda, about a little over $9.6 million. So I think this proclamation is certainly in order. And we are rapidly spending the money, so,
Yeah, and then some.
and then some.
All right.
So I'll make a motion to approve the proclamation for Sue Aller.
Support?
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Sutton to approve the proclamation for State Representative Sue Eller as presented. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to the other section of the agenda, first on is the park request use for Ken Ratliff Park for the Paul Bunyan Challenge for 2023.
All right, so you have a request for the Freedom Run Fest, also known as the Three Disciplines. They're asking for minimal from the township, basically just approval to use Ken Ratliff Park and possibly some assistance from the police department. I believe there's some point where they have to cross the road. So basically, approval for Ratliff Park and some other minor services. Nothing that will cost us any money other than the police department being present at that one area on F41.
Is there a fee to use the park?
No. No, they're just being respectful.
I would say
I mean,
this is
can
a.
we even
this-
say no if it's a public park?
This is a activity that went on last year,
Yes.
and it was very well attended. I actually live just down the street from Ratliff Park on Van Etten Lake, and they put these big buoys out in the lake for the swimmers to swim around, and it drew a lot of attention last year with pontoons and boats were coming up to the area to watch the swimmers go around. It was very well attended and very well put on from what I could see. So I would like to see us approve this for next year. I think this is a good project. So I'll make a motion to approve the request for the Paul Bunyan Challenge for Ratliff Park.
Okay, I'll support that. There's a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Ms. Richards for approval of the Paul Bunyan Challenge for 2023. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes. Motion carried. Sorry, we have so few people to ask. I keep waiting for you to go.
Yeah, I think this is the shortest the board's been since the election, isn't it?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yep. Okay, so moving on to the Planning Commission and ZBA bylaws amendments. Assuming that's why Nicole's here.
Yes.
Okay.
Is this on? Okay. So in May, I asked you to approve the bylaws. I did not have the attorney review them first. I didn't know at that point that I was supposed to. And then it was brought to my attention that the alternate wasn't allowed, and you guys rescinded that appointment. So between then and now, I had the attorney thoroughly review the Planning Commission bylaws and the ZBA bylaws, and I just got the ZBA bylaws in front of the ZBA last Monday. We haven't had any meetings. There wasn't a need for any. We didn't have any variance requests. So that's why I'm just now bringing them both to you. The language about the alternate was taken out of the bylaws. So just because it was in there, she said we still can't have one. They are actually writing alternate language into that act right now, but it just started. So some months down the line, I might be bringing these back to you to get that alternate added back in, but I have to wait until that's done. So in the meantime, I'm just asking for you to approve the changes for both Planning Commission and ZBA.
Why June and not January?
It's always been done in June. And she had that comment too, but I just left it at June.
That's why.
I know. Oh, I know. Yeah. I just left it with June.
Would it be better in January?
Would it be worse in January?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Guess we should form a committee.
Let's not say we did.
Let's not, yeah. No, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions that, okay? Comments? Really? None?
No, I spent a lot of time going through these bylaws. I've already been through them,
Okay,
front and back, with the planning commission.
all right then.
So
Want to make a motion to
what are,
approve?
what are we what are we approving then? I mean, I see there's a bunch of comments in here, but we don't actually have a document that shows what we're actually going to end with.
You
Yeah, it
do.
is.
My memo states that the first set of bylaws for Planning Commission with the red line, those are all the changes. The second version is the clean final copy. And then it goes on to the ZBA bylaws with all the amendments, and then the final ZBA bylaws with
So she's
every
showing all the
change
changes.
made.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
So I'll make a motion to approve, can we do them both?
At the same time?
I'll make a motion to approve the bylaws for the planning commission as presented and the ZBA bylaws as presented.
Support, Spencer.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Spencer to approve the bylaws as presented. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to the 2022 winter newsletter. This goes out with a winter tax bill.
Yes.
Any comments?
I thought it was very good. Includes a lot of information.
Do we need a motion to approve this newsletter as presented, or?
Yeah.
Make a motion to approve the winter newsletter for the 2022 year as presented.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Sutton to approve the 2022 winter newsletter, as presented. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to the budget work session scheduling.
So I have a couple dates, and I know there's only 4 of you, but I could at least get 4 of you right now.
Okay,
November 2nd or the 4th, and I was hoping we could do something in the morning, maybe 9 o'clock-ish.
Either one of those is fine with me. Prefer Friday.
Did you say the 2nd and the 4th?
Yes.
second is a Wednesday.
Yeah.
As far as I know, I'm available.
Either one of those works for me.
Josh?
According to the phone calendar, I'm available, but I will double check that tomorrow, too.
Which day? Both?
I think that Jeremy said he preferred the 4th.
Okay.
Is that what you said?
Please, if we can do if we can do Friday, that would be better for me, but if we can't, then that's fine.
Well, it's all about you tonight, Jeremy, so we will try.
Well, that at
Well,
least gives me a quorum, so that's what I need.
Did you have a time in mind?
9,
9, oh,
Bill
Crack it.
doesn't like that 9 time frame.
crack of dawn.
9:30?
This will be November,
Okay. Do you want a motion on
Fourth
that?
Friday, yeah.
Yes, please.
Okay, I make a motion that we schedule a budget work session for Friday, November, forgot the date already, the 4th at 9 a.m.
Support.
Okay, so there's a motion by Ms. Richards, support by Mr. Palmer for the November 4th, 9 a.m. budget work session. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried.
And this will be at the library?
Yes.
Okay. All right, auto dialer discussion placeholder.
So go ahead.
We have a committee meeting scheduled for Friday at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. All right, sounds
We'll
good.
have some updates after that, next meeting.
Okay.
And real quick, it was brought to my attention, Mr. Cummings is watching the meeting, and he does not think that the motion for the mediation agreement was adequate. So he wants me.
He can't make comment on that.
I understand that,
Yeah,
but he's
well-
not wrong. If we're talking about a motion here, and the way that I said it with the mediation results as presented, they were not presented. And so we don't have, I mean, we didn't put out the amount or any of that. So I'm just asking for us to review it. If you think it's adequate, then we move on. If not, then maybe we should revisit that motion. Because I don't want it to be wrong.
I think you should restate the motion and exclude the as presented part.
Do we need to remove?
I would
Yeah,
right here.
okay, so go back to the agenda item. I'll restate the, so we're going to rescind, go ahead, Jeremy.
Make a motion to rescind the previous motion on the mediation results decision.
Okay, and I'll make, all right. And I will support that.
Sorry,
So
this
there's a
was my
motion by
fault.
Spencer, support by Richards to rescind that previous, I just went blank.
Motion.
Motion, yeah. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. I make a motion that we move to approve the mediation agreement, which was tentatively reached, subject to approval by the board, and I make a motion that we approve that.
Support, Spencer.
Okay. So there's a motion by Richards, support by Spencer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry about the confusion.
Okay, auto dialer discussion, so you guys are having a meeting on this Friday?
This Friday at 8
Okay.
o'clock in the
So-
morning.
So more to come on our first November meeting.
Correct.
Okay, all right, so that concludes the agenda as presented, discussion. Moving on to the second public comment section. Again, as I previously mentioned, you do not need to fill out a comment card for this, and it does not need to be on an agenda item. I usually go by sections, and if somebody in that section, so I'm going to start where there's nobody, but there's nobody in that section, so I don't see any raised hand. In the middle section, if you have a public comment then, or would like to make one, raise your hand. Okay, there's one hand raised. Go ahead and come to the podium. You can come here to the podium and just state your name and where you reside. If you would, please.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name's Carolyn Newman, and I'm here with my husband, Chuck. We are brand-new residents of Oscoda. We've lived here all of 1 month, and we're here tonight to share some concerns and observations in this month we've been here. We chose to retire here because we really love the area and found a lovely home in Brewster subdivision. And the first thing that came to our attention, directly across the street from us, we noticed there was a lot of car activity, probably an average 4 to 6 cars coming and going at all hours of the days and nights. And it's like Grand Central Station. We have since found out that it's a halfway house directly across the street from us. And the amount of traffic concerns us. The porch light is like a beacon light on all night. And last Monday was when we really became concerned. In the morning, we heard some blood-curdling screams and yelling through the closed doors and got up to look out the window and see what was going on. And this went on for about 15 minutes. And at that point, 5 police cars pulled up, another official-type vehicle, and an ambulance, and they're all parked in single file across the road right in front of our house. Screaming is still continuing. Eventually, a man was brought out in handcuffs and put in the ambulance, and it was very disconcerting to see this, in the morning in a quiet residential neighborhood. And I guess our question is, we'd like to know who thought it would be a good idea to put this business establishment, which is volatile and potentially dangerous, in this quiet residential neighborhood where children play. And that's my question.
Okay, all right, well, we will have to look into that, okay? We don't always
Okay.
answer questions,
Okay.
especially if we don't have answers.
Is that something that could be placed on the agenda for discussion at another meeting? We'd really like to hear some comments on it.
I think that we would have to get with the powers that be and get back to you. It's not necessarily an agenda item. We'd have to
Okay.
go through the planning commission. There's zoning things that we're looking, that would have to be looked at, so.
Okay.
We will get with, she already left, but Nicole, our zoning administrator, and our superintendent, and we can get, I'd rather not discuss specific addresses right now.
Okay.
So we can get that information and look into it. And I'm
Okay.
assuming there's some, police reports and so on, so.
Okay, all right. It's very disconcerting, and the traffic arose our suspicion immediately. We thought, what are we, across from a drug house or whatever, with the comings and goings? And it just seems out of line for a residential neighborhood. One other observation we've made is our road has been identified as road, street, drive, and just plain Norway. And it's created some confusion with GPS. Our moving van couldn't find us. And the road signs are all different. Is that something that can be looked at as well? What is it really, as far as the official address?
Well, the township does not own the roads. Those are all maintained by the county road commission, so we would have to check with them.
Okay, all right, that's all we have to say.
Okay, and then can I get the correct, can I get how your last name is spelled?
Newman.
Okay, all right, thanks, Carolyn. You have 4 minutes total, and if you want to add, you can come over. You need to come over to the podium, though, okay? I know it's your first time coming, so okay. Oh, do we have a timer?
You won't need one.
Okay. Sorry, Jamie's gone today. I
One of
forgot.
the things that, well, a couple things. The screaming that she mentioned was extremely, it was horrifying. We
Okay.
were across the street, all the doors are closed, and it was, it just, like that when we heard it. It went on for more like a half an hour. And she was saying, the first day we moved in, I know, man, there's a lot of cars in and out of this place, and I'm thinking, what is it, a drug house or what, And but the one thing that did not happen that surprised me is there was no disclosure when we purchased the home by anybody, the owners, the realtors, no, and I can't believe that nobody knew that this was going on across the street. That's all I got to say.
Okay, and I'm sorry, what was your first name, sir?
Charles
Charles.
Newman.
Okay,
Welcome to Oscoda.
yeah, thank you.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah, we all do.
yep,
Well, we're happy to have you as well.
great. Okay, we will look into that, and we'll, if you could actually provide some contact information to the superintendent before you leave, if you're going to stay throughout the meeting, okay?
We already have it.
You already have it?
We
Okay.
already-
All right.
yes.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else in the middle section? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to go to the far right. Mr. Jolly, come on down. I feel like the price is right when I just said that. Sorry about that.
I'd sing the theme music, but it seems inappropriate. I said I would sing the theme
Right,
music, but it
right.
seems inappropriate.
Good evening. My name is Clayton Jolly, and for the edification of the newspaper, it's Jolley. The E is in there for either entertainment or exasperation. That's your call. At any rate, one of the primary issues I have is the fact that we are limited to 4 minutes in our question or comment time. I'd like to know who instituted that rule? Why was that amount of time allotted? And how can we go about altering that time allotment? Does anybody have an immediate question, or is this something that's going to have to be studied or researched?
I don't have an immediate answer, no.
in-
It's been in for a long, long time,
It's
so,
in the OMA.
yeah.
It's in the Open
Great.
Meetings Act, and the Open Meetings Act, if I recall, it states that it can be between 2 to 6 minutes, and so the Oscoda Township picked the middle.
My request is we go with the extended, the 6 minutes. One of the reasons that I suggest that is not everybody can express themselves or their issue or ask their question, what have you, in a small amount of time. I'm fortunate that I can do that, but not everybody can. And sometimes their issue might be, as the issue brought before you was, actually may have taken just a little longer than 4 minutes. It was nice that you were gracious enough to allow her to complete her statement. But as you can see right there, that's a good example of why I believe we need to adjust that time period to 6 minutes. And I'd appreciate it if you would take some steps to do that.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Anything besides that, Clayton?
The only other thing is, I'm one of the houses on Loud Drive that had the pipeline run down in front of it. Matter of fact, I got a nice new fire hydrant in front of my house, and I appreciate that. My insurance adjuster made an adjustment for that. For that said, I didn't see anything in the paper or any notification of how I sign up or get involved in getting that water piped into my house instead of the well. So I hope that I'm not going to be too late or in signing up for that. And where do I go to do that? Who do I see?
That's for this current one, right? That we're just now getting approval for that on Loud Drive, to go backwards.
That's further out
Right.
in the project.
Yeah.
That's the service line
Right.
contract that'll come out this winter.
So you're on a list.
Okay, then I'm not too late.
Nope.
Great, thank you. That'll, well, of course, the hair's all gray anyway, so it doesn't matter if I worry.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much. That's it.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Clayton. Okay, there's nobody else in that far row unless you wanted to say something, Rick? You're good? Okay, all right, well, then that concludes the public comment section of our agenda. We now move on to board comments. Do we have any board members that would like to make comment?
No?
No?
Other than,
Short, sweet, and to the
I will make one comment. There was recent legislation that was passed here in Michigan that for certain types of activities, townships are not able to zone or have authority over those zoning districts. And I'm not sure if the place you're talking about falls under that legislation, I believe. Almost everything else in the township, we have a zoning ordinance, and we're able to regulate zoning in every area, and what can be allowed in that zoning district and what can't be allowed in that zoning district. But the legislature recently passed a number of items that took away the ability for townships to regulate zoning on certain things. And I believe what you're discussing is one of those. The state.
Well, he's not 100% sure on that, so.
I'm not 100% on
Okay,
that,
so,
but I know there
great.
was, I know there was legislation recently passed.
So we will look into that and get back. I'd rather
Yeah,
not
no, that's
speculate
fine.
at this point in time. Okay, any other comments by the board? All right, hearing none, I would make a motion to approve at 8:31. I mean.
Approved.
I meant adjourn, sorry, 8:31.
Thanks for coming out, Oscoda.
Yep, thank you very much.